Secretly, this is a secret. I want to be an Emacs guy.
No, you don't.
Yes.
Emacs is the worst.
No, I want to do it because at the minute I'm using Tmux with Tmuxinator, and it is a pain in the backside to configure because there is no way of sort of changing keybinds or anything. I want to use elisp. I want to be able to set the commands that I want to use, and I want to be able to. You really don't give a damn.
I do. Hello, welcome to Bits and Booze. My name is Scott Chacon. I'll be your host. I am the CEO of GitButler. I was a co-founder of GitHub, and I happen to be a certified wine expert. So in this series, we're gonna try to shake things up a little bit. We'll be drinking some wine, we'll be talking about wine, and we'll be learning about a new version control system that Google has been developing called Jujutsu. GitButler has actually taken some inspiration from some of the things that Jujutsu does. I think it's really fascinating, and so we're gonna sit down, we're gonna use Jujutsu, we're gonna create some commits, we're gonna see how it differs from Git and what the future of version control could look like. So let's get started. The previous episode that we did was on BitKeeper, which really came before Git. And now we're gonna be talking about Jujutsu, which has some new ideas that we're trying to incorporate into some of what GitButler does.
I mean, for the last 3 weeks, I've spent my time, implementing features inspired by JJ. So it'll be really interesting to sort of check it out and sort of see how they do things. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have another Sancerre-like wine today. This is a Puy Fumé. So, Puy Fumé, Puy Fumé. Like I said before, we had a Gigondas that is similar to a Chateauneuf du Pape.
Right.
So what you really want to do with wine is you want to find something you like and then find an appellation that's close to it.
Yeah, so neighboring.
Has no name recognition.
Yeah.
And spend the same amount of money and you'll have a much better wine.
Yeah.
Right, because you're not paying for marketing. And so Puy Fumé, if you like Sancerre, which is in the Loire region of France and is mostly Sauvignon Blanc. Puy Fumé is also, it's right next to Sancerre. If you're in France and you order a white wine, it's almost always Sancerre. This is the Sauvignon Blanc of France. Everybody knows Sancerre. It is very popular. It's like the champagne sort of Sauvignon Blanc of this light white wine. It is the same grape, right? It's a Sauvignon Blanc. It's the same region. It's the same style of making something. But nobody really knows Puy Fumé, at least to the same degree, the poof. You can also find this in the United States. They're in California, they'll make a Fumé Blanc, which is essentially exactly the same thing, but they just don't use the appellation. So yeah, I wanted to do this, not because it's different. Again, this is how you know it's a good wine.
It's got some rose on top. Yep.
This nice, beautiful rose. We'll call it a rose.
What did the grape say when the sommelier stepped on it?
Oh, what is that?
It gave out a little wine. Cheers.
Oh my days.
Oh my days.
No.
It's got a slightly more, almost like a gummy bear type flavor.
It is. It has not a sweetness, but like
it's slightly less fruity.
I like the gummy concept, right? Like it has a hold on your gums.
JJ.
It is Jujutsu.
Jujutsu.
Jujutsu. Jujutsu started as a Google project, as far as I know, that this guy Martin has started working on. It's entirely in Rust, the same way that
fantastic programming language.
Exactly, that GitButler is. We've looked at it and we've taken inspiration from it. And so I want to go over why is this cool? Why is this inspirational? The first thing we have to do is understand that Jujutsu can have multiple backends, right? So it does all these operations, and then the backends, it can have a Jujutsu backend, which is native. It has a Git backend. It could have other backends. It could have a Google backend or a Mercurial backend or whatever. The only backend that they say even that works fully is the Git backend. So it is kind of a Git front end. So let's clone a repository and start this.
So let's clone our Git repository for GitButler.
Sure.
So JJ
Git clone,
and then our URL.
Exactly.
This takes a minute. Okay. Cool. So what do I have here? I have a GitButler folder. And this is just our GitButler repository.
Do JJ log.
So JJ log.
Yep. Okay. Essentially what JJ git clone does is it imports, and it doesn't import all of the Git history.
Right.
It says, here's a new JJ sort of repository that's based on the last thing that I saw. In this case, it is
this head commit from Nico.
And so this is the last commit that it has. And then essentially what it does is say you have an empty new working state, new working commit. In Git, generally, you would clone and it would be like, okay, you're clean. Now start working on stuff. And you start working on stuff and it's dirty, right? Yeah. Like you have this sort of dirty working.
I've got this uncommitted changes that
there's
aren't
all these
part of Git.
Exactly. In JJ, you never have sort of a dirty set. You have a new, empty, clean commit that you modify over time. Yes. And then finalize at some point when you create another one, right? So it's the opposite. Like you finalize it at the end rather than, or you create like you're working on this change set all the time. And then at the end, you're like, I want a new one. And that kind of implicitly stops the last one. Yeah. And that's a very, very different mental set to how Git works.
Yeah, so I've got this empty commit here, and every change that I'm going to make is going to be added to this particular empty commit until I say, hey, please give me a new one.
And not only that, let's go into the first command that's interesting, which is JJ describe.
So JJ describe.
Right. So what this is going to do is it's going to give you a user interface that's similar to Git commit.
Right.
But the problem is, when you run Git commit, you're done.
Right.
When you run JJ describe, before you even start working, you're saying, I'm going to take notes and write out documentation on what I'm going to do, right? And then you keep working. As you're working, it's updating that new set, that new commit, that new patch, right? So let's try this out and say, here's the thing I want to do. What's the thing we want to do? Let's update the README or something.
Let's update the README. Update the README with some awesome changes.
Yeah. And now, I mean, you can set these config settings if you want to. Let's not do that right now. But like, what's really cool is that now you're on this little @ sign here. Actually, if you can point at that, this is the commit you're on. This is the commit that's sort of your working directory now.
That's what all my changes are going to go into this one.
And so now let's update the README. So again, this is not, I update the README and then I commit and give it a message. I can give it a message and then update the README and then it's done.
We've made some changes. Isn't that wonderful?
Open it up in Emacs if you need to. All right. So now run JJ again.
So run JJ.
Or JJ log, right?
Yeah.
And so now what has happened is that those changes you've made have been sort of absorbed into the current change set that you're on.
Yep.
But there's a bunch of cool things that you can do. So I want to move on.
Sure.
So you do JJ new.
JJ new.
Right. Now run JJ again. All right. So now you run JJ. It's the log. You see. I mean, you already fucked it up with no email, but it's fine. Now you already have that particular change that you've. So now you can do another one.
Cool.
Right? Like, so let's go into the README and do a second change maybe. Do you hate uppercase? What is happening?
I don't know what's going on. So if I do JJ, we've
now your email address is there. We have some new files. So now there's a couple interesting things.
Yeah.
And these are things that we have incorporated into Git Butler in a way that this has really, I think, influenced us. One is the oplog. So if you do JJ oplog.
Yep.
Now, two words. All right. Now, what's really cool about this is you can see your work beef in it.
Yeah. Well, my work beef.
That has done a bunch of things. But you can see everything that you've done, right? You do a new empty commit, you do a new snapshot working copy, you're describing a commit, you're checking out something, like even all of these things. You can go back in time to any of these things, right? Like you can do JJ op restore and give it a SHA of any of these, and it will just put you back to where you were. Or, very interestingly, you can say JJ undo, and whatever the last thing on this sort of stack, it will simply roll you back, right? So if you do a new, if you do like a change, if you do a commit, whatever, again, there's not a commit. It's I'm done because I need a new space, right? But if you create a new space and you say JJ undo, or you pull something in or whatever, or you merge something, you can say JJ undo, and it just goes through this oplog and it resets everything to that point, right? And so I find that you can kind of do this in Git, like you can do this in the ref log and like hard reset to some earlier point or whatever, but it just seems so much more intuitive.
Yeah,
Right.
this
To
is-
say like just undo it, right, or just restore to this particular point, and I'll put you back to where that was.
Here are all of the commands you've run. Let's go back to a previous point. With the git ref log, it's often you've done a rebase and it's created 20 different entries where the head has been checked out at these different points.
Exactly.
Whereas this is just, here's some commands you've run. Would you like to go back before you've run this particular command? Which is quite intuitive as a sort of user experience.
Yeah, exactly. So let's do some interesting stuff. Let's do run JJ log or JJ. Yeah. So you have essentially 2 commits and a work in progress, right?
Yeah. This one here we're working on.
So let's run JJ describe and do something interesting here.
So describe this commit, and it's actually telling us we've got
You're bad at messages, but okay, fine. It's fine.
Oh like, God, damn it.
I'm not going to pour you any more of this poulet fumet.
Oh no.
I'm just kidding.
There we go.
Okay, so we're good.
Okay, so we've got a fantastic commit.
JJ log.
So let's clear this and do a JJ to get the log.
All right, so there are 2 different IDs, right?
Right.
So if you look at the 55OED whatever at the top.
So
can you highlight that?
This one over here.
So that is the commit SHA. That is what Git has as the sort of immutable thing of everything that can't be changed.
Yeah.
But the other thing, the NQ blah 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 blah,
yeah,
that's your change ID.
Right.
And so if you rebase this, that will stay the same, and the other one will change, right? Let's edit something.
Sure.
So edit the README file again.
So let's edit the
or whatever.
So edit the README.
Sure.
What have I done?
I don't know.
So we've got some, new content in here.
Sure. And then JJ. What you can see is that the NQP stays the same, but the SHA differs.
Right. This started like a C.
It has changed what the tree is. It has changed what the commit is. Yeah. But the commit ID is the same, right?
Yeah.
And so it has this ID or this idea of every commit has an ID.
Yeah.
And when you modify it, it doesn't change the ID, but it does change the SHA. Let's do JJ edit. In this case, S, you can see what is unique because we don't have a lot of commits. Yeah. And so right now it's just S. So S stands for SUUKK, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So let's do that. So what that does is that checks out that, so do JJ log again, or JJ.
Yeah.
So you can see the @ sign move down.
Yeah.
So that says, I checked this out. Yeah. There are commits after this.
Yeah.
But if we edit this, right, let's edit the README again.
Yep.
Let's save this.
Sure.
You have awful changes, but that's fine. JJ, we've created conflicts, right? Because we essentially, it's like this weird interactive rebasing. Like we went down a step or two, we edited the patch that was there. Yeah. And then everything else was rebased on top of that, but they created conflicts because you changed the same thing in multiple ways now.
So it's kind of automatically rebased the future changes on top of where I'm currently at.
Exactly. Git can't do this.
Yeah.
Right? Git cannot say, check out this thing, modify it. Yeah. You would have to manually rebase stuff on top of it.
I'd have to make a new branch, make my changes, and then, I'd have to cherry pick that commit into, through an interactive rebase. It would be a right pain in the ass.
It would be horrible. We're in our main repository. Yep. We're here. There's a conflicted commit. Yeah. It's just not applied. But we can keep working. So let's edit a completely different file.
So shall I go sort of JJ new, so we're sort of editing on top?
Let's do a JJ new. We'll do a new working sort of set.
Yep.
We'll edit a file.
So on top here.
Yep.
Yep. So let's edit the license, right?
It's like you don't know how to spell license.
I don't. So let's upgrade our license to 1.2.
Or 3.
Or 3.
JJ.
So JJ, so we've got a new sort of commit on top.
So now what we want to do is we want to fix the conflict.
Sure.
So let's do, what you do is you say JJ edit.
JJ edit.
And then the change ID. So in this case it's N because it's very short, but you could do the whole thing.
Yeah, I could do the whole thing.
Let's do that.
Let's do the whole thing.
Sure.
So now if I JJ log, I'm on this commit here.
Right. So let's fix it.
Sure. So vim readme.md.
So now it does this interesting thing. Here's what's coming in from one side and the other side, but you can have actually multiple sides. Like it is much more robust in the way that it deals with merge conflicts. Yeah. So let's fix this. Now,
you never told me to
delete all of it and say merged.
So this is a merge resolution. Close enough.
Boy, it's real close. Okay, now run JJ.
So now I run JJ, and it sees that my conflict's gone.
It is forked.
Yes.
So the way that JJ rebases is a little bit different. So you say JJ rebase,
JJ.
and you say what the source is. So
Sure.
-s.
-s.
And then you say N, in this case, NQP blah blah blah.
NQP.
I want to take this,
NQS.
and then space, and then -D, so the destination,
Right.
which is Y. That's Y, Z, R, blah blah blah.
ZR.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
So let's do that. Let's take what we did. We'll move it on top. Now do
Right.
JJ again.
Okay.
So now we have this nice linear history,
Yeah.
right? So this took what we had done, it adds it on top of what we had fixed, right? In this conflicted manner. But the idea I think that's interesting about this is that rebases never fail.
Yep.
Like every time you do a rebase, every time you do a cherry pick, anything like that, it will say, this is a conflict, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put into the commit header the data that I need to recreate this at some point, like in the future, and I'll pretend like it didn't happen.
Yeah. So it's kind of saying, I've seen a conflict here, but I'm going to resolve it to just sort of, I'm going to pick a side and sort of assume this is how the conflict's meant to be resolved.
Exactly. I find this really fascinating, and I know we're doing this in Git Butler as well, or mostly you.
I mean, yes. Over the last 3 weeks, I've been sort of implementing the same sort of functionality. And in terms of my workflow, sort of having access to this in Git Butler now, it's become a incredibly, like, it's almost an invaluable tool to sort of making changes. Where sort of previously, I'd say, I'd like to go back and, modify this commit. I'd have to make a change and then sort of an interactive rebase to sort of put it on top of that change and squash it together. Now I just say, let's go back in time. Let's make the change. And then if there's a conflict, I can, continue working and resolve it at a later date, which is incredibly powerful.
Let's make a new commit in the middle here somewhere.
Right.
So what you can do is you can say JJ new.
Okay. So JJ
and then,
new.
But not when you do JJ new, it usually does essentially the head, right? Like what you're on now.
So where
let's say
we're at
JJ
here.
new like SUU.
So SUU.
Like something farther down.
Yeah. So we're making a commit on top of this SUU.
So you're making a new change set that is based on that, right?
Yeah.
And so it goes back in time and says, okay, here's what I'll put this in your working directory. Here's what the next commit will look like. So let's do that.
Sure.
Okay.
So now if I do a.
So now let's make some changes. Exactly. So now we've branched.
Yeah.
Right.
So on top
So
of
now this is the way that you branch, right? It's not creating a branch. It's saying I want a new working space based on some older working space or something, right? Let's do something. Let's make a change here and then merge it in.
Yeah. So let's edit. Let's say our turbo.json.
Actually, let's make that. Yeah, that's fine.
So let's say that we want to, actually just only edit the C that's like output the dist folder.
That makes sense. So JJ again.
Yep. Shall we describe this change?
Yeah, sure.
So we have made the best modification to the.
But I mean, again, this is interesting. You can do it before or after.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter. It's any time within the development workflow, you can say, here's what I'm doing, right? And actually, let's save this. Actually, save this because you had a bunch of problems here. Save it. Now, JJ log, whatever.
Log.
Let's say JJ describe again.
JJ describe.
It's a fun thing, right?
Yeah.
Now you can change this.
I can change it.
Say, this is different than what I thought.
Yeah.
This is different than what I wanted to do.
Yeah. So this is a different change.
And you update it. Now run JJ again, right? Like now it's updated the commit message that you will have in the future. And I find that super fascinating.
But it's the same sort of change ID.
And now, now the way that you merge, you say JJ new.
So JJ new.
And then you give it the two things you want to merge together.
Okay.
The two parents, right? So you say, in this case, K and N, right?
So K-U-N?
No. K, yeah. So K-U-N, and then space, and then whatever, like
so
Q, or NQP.
NQP. Right. So we want to merge this commit here and this commit here.
Yep. Now JJ log. So now it has merged these in.
But in some ways, it's a really nice way of working because, you can plan as much as you want before you start working, but then, you run into problems, you need to solve them in sort of different ways. But rather than sort of having like force pushing several different commits. It's all part of the same change ID, right?
Exactly. So I'll do one more thing, and then
Sure.
we're done. I want to insert a blank commit and insert some work. And you can do this in Git Butler too. And the reason is because we took inspiration from this. But let's put a commit with some changes before the YZR.
The YZR commit.
And so what you do is you can say, no.
I'm jumping the gun.
JJ new
So JJ new
dash capital B
dash capital B.
before.
So before.
And then that, and then that.
So that YZR something.
Yep. Now run JJ log.
So now I run JJ.
So now we have this
empty
empty commit that's it doesn't introduce any changes, but
Right.
it exists in the history of
Yes.
what we're doing, and we're checked out to it.
Right. But we still have these same sort of recognizable change IDs above it, right? So it's not like we've rebased everything and they're just unrecognizable. We can still tell.
They all have change IDs. It has rebased everything. We haven't seen it.
Yeah.
What we can do is two different things. We can go in and we can change files.
Sure.
If we change files and it introduces merge conflicts, now stuff above us has merge conflicts at this point.
Right. Yeah.
Or we can just introduce changes that have no merge conflicts and then everything's fine, right? Like both of those things are valid at this point.
yeah.
Like think about how you would do that in Git. It's almost impossible. There are merges above this. Like it is very, very difficult to do.
I mean, in Git, you can't rebase a merge commit for some unknown reason.
I mean, kind of, but
You
it's not
can,
great.
but you've got to say like a Git rebase, dash with merges and to get the job done. But it's not like a sort of default functionality.
No. So let's close up because I find this really interesting. We are clearly working on this in Git Butler of just trying to take this the interesting things about this and trying to make it generally accessible. But in the long term, what is a change set?
Yeah.
Like how can we deal with merge conflicts? How can we deal with them later?
Yeah.
Like how can we create a commit message at the beginning of the process rather than the end of the process, right?
Yeah.
Like how can we shift left? Like what does that mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like JJ is a really, really fascinating tool of saying this can be how we do this. So thank you for working on it.
Thank you.
We're done.
Like, comment, subscribe. When I'm 60, I'm gonna have a dojo for pillow fighting. I'm gonna have a bunch of pillows. We're just gonna hit each other with pillows.
Oh my God.